Friends, we are back with another episode of the Sam Pais podcast show. Are you ready to step into a dynamic world of business like never before? Well, you're come to the right place. I'm your producer and host, Victor Escalante, and I'm thrilled to have here in the studio, Sam Pais. Sam, how are you doing today? Say hi to our listeners.
Hey, Victor. Hey, it's great to be back in the room again, doing the podcast. I was really excited from the first one and the cleanup you did on it. So, yeah, I'm really excited to be back in the room with you, Victor, and really talking to our audience and the raza.
Today, we have a very interesting show because we're going to talk about your first book, El Presidente. I read through it, Sam, and it's really, it's an organic book, which means that you wrote it just like you thought it. You shoot straight from the hip. You tell your story of the highs and lows. So tell us, what inspired you to write this book?
My grandmother did. I was going to the second grade, and I was on my way to school. And my mom was forcing me to go because I didn't want to go. You know, Mom, me duele el estómago, you know, just in English. My stomach hurts, just all kinds of stuff going on with my mom. And my mom and my grandmother's houses were catty corner from one street to the other end. So I would walk through the backyard going to school, and I was crying because my mom was making me go. And my grandmother was feeding the chickens. And so she was feeding the chickens. I heard her, so I started crying more because I'm the oldest grandson, the consentido, the preferido. So going through there, my grandmother right away dropped what she was feeding the chickens to go see what happened to me. And she goes, "What happened, mijo?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to go to school today, but my mom is making me go, and me duele el estómago." And so just like every day that I walked through the back, she would take me to the back porch, to the back door, and we'd go in, and I'd have my atole. Every morning, my grandmother had my atole or my eggs or my hot biscuits from scratch. And so that would be the day my grandmother would have the conversation of how she came into America from Mexico, and just a sad story that she was telling me and why she came from Mexico to the United States. My grandfather had passed away from a massive heart attack. And so at the table, she's serving me the atole, and she goes, "Mijo, do you want to be president of the United States?" "Abuela, Presidente of America?" And my eyes lit up, and my grandmother says, "Sí, mijo, but you got to go to school every day. You got to get good grades, and el Presidente doesn't cry." And so from that day on, all the way up to 10th grade, I had straight A's. I was in accelerated classes. I pushed myself to prove that I could be president of the United States. And, you know, looking back at it, it was kind of a funny thing, but I was going through a crisis. My grandmother had already passed away. And I was going through a horrible crisis of being locked out of my main office. And I was having to move back to Hopper Road, where my parents' family's business was at. And it was a body shop. And we were doing taxes and insurance, so I was going to have to build that first building out. And, of course, no money, no credit. My wife was fighting depression because we were going to have to move from where we were at back to Hopper Road, and there was no office. We had no office space. And I told my wife it was beginning of November, and I had till January 1st to get into the office. And so I go to work, put in tile, and I had no idea of how to put tile. I just went and bought some extra tile that I got very, very cheap, almost given to me. And so I'm there at midnight putting the tile, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, having pity patty party, whatever you want to call it. And I swear I heard my grandmother's voice, and I looked around and I got up and I walked outside. It's midnight, nobody's there. I'm working by myself. Couldn't afford to hire anybody, couldn't pay anybody. And I heard my grandmother's voice, and I hadn't heard it in 10, 15 years. And she reminded me about being el presidente. So I started crying and So I got back into the building and I said, man, grandmother, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try my best to get this tile. And a young man, Roger, I'll never forget, driving by Hopper and sees the lights on and comes in. And this guy is a trade by habit on everything he does. Goes in there and says, Sam, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, man, I'm trying to do tile. I'm locked out of my main office. I'm trying to move here so I could get the tax season started. And you could tell he was high as a kite, man. And so the guy said, move over, Sam. And so he goes in there and tiled the whole floor. We went from midnight to about 7 in the morning, man.
Wow.
And so no pay, no nothing. He just went in to help me. And after that day, the contractors, people started showing up to help me. And so, yeah, it was an incredible story.
Now, so we're going to make a pause because I want you to fast forward to today. That was then, Sam, when you were at one of your lowest points in your life. And throughout the book, you're very candid about the highs and lows in your life's journey, financially, emotionally, relationally. But where are you today, to put it in context?
Well, after that day, I realized that I'm the president of 14, 15 different companies. So I filled that dream that my grandmother said that I was going to be president. And, I'm thinking of the United States, but I'm president of my companies and I'm responsible for people day in, day out. And where I am today is fulfilling a lot of the goals and dreams that I had through those conversations that I had with my mother and grandmother. And so just the other day, they were asking me about competition. And I said, well, I look at competition this way. I go back and I dropped out of high school, but I got my GED. I wrote a book and I sent it to President Trump and got it signed. I look at that. I established tax companies, insurance companies, real estate companies, all through LLCs and corporations. I've had up to 200 people working for me, up to 100 people to 50 people now. And so I tell a lot of people, I just look back at my walk and pat myself on the back, because if I start reaching for competitors or looking at what everybody else is doing, then I'm going to be an unhappy person. And I'm really happy with what I've built and what I've done. Now, I've been a day late and a dollar short, but right now, today, I'm in a great position doing what I'm doing and able to help a lot of thousands of Latinos in the market right now in business.
Okay, I'll say it because you're too humble. You are moving in the direction of having your own IPO. So while you may not be ready to openly talk about that, that's where you are today. It's like you're at the pinnacle or getting ready to make that big leap to where you will be a public company.
Yes, we're definitely writing the plan, walking the walk, and talking to people. But again, I couldn't have done it without my clients. A lot of people say that I'm self-made and I'm a self-made millionaire, but I don't believe I'm self-made. I'm made through my clients, my customers, my family, my grandmother, my mother. And so I have to share that part of what I've been through with them, because it was good people that helped me to get right here, right now, where I'm at.
Let's digress. The book El Presidente delves into the political intrigue and power dynamics. What drew you to explore these themes and how they resonate with our current society?
Well, I wrote the book in 2015, and I seen Carlson from HUD stop giving housing to the Latino market if you were illegal, but the kids were legal. They stopped the housing. Then I seen Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac make their move about not giving any more loans to the I-10 individuals. So then I knew right there and then, here we go. I started telling all my clients, all the I-10 users, you need to create LLCs, you need to create corporations, you need to protect your assets. You got 20 or 30 years here, but we're going to deport you. China's no longer buying our deficits, and so the low-hanging fruit are all these individuals who came here illegal, bought a house illegal, started a business illegal, bought a car illegal, And so I started looking at these things. And so the book is really about you becoming the president of your company and protecting your assets to the maximum possible through an LLC and a corporation.
Explain to our listeners what an ITN number is.
It's identification taxpayer individual number, and it replaces the Social Security number. But that number was made for people coming in with the concept of creating LLCs and corporations. It was never meant to give to everybody. It was meant for individuals coming to invest here in this country. And remember, we want your money. We don't want you. So at the end of the day, these I-10 numbers were created so you could report your income here as a foreigner in America. And then the IRS came in and said, look, we're going to give everybody I-10 numbers so they can identify themselves on the taxes as we filled out the tax return so they could pay their fair share of taxes.
Now, one of your businesses is a tax preparing service company, and you have helped hundreds of clients with their taxes. Why is taxes and knowing the law about taxes so important for La Raza, Sam?
I've studied and taken a lot of courses on taxation. And so I realized that most Latinos are DBAs, and most people starting out are DBAs, myself, for 20 years. And as a DBA, doing business as is the highest way to pay taxes in America. And because we're not educated, we're told to work hard to make a lot of money. This is where we pay the most taxation, which is called earned income. And so as I started to read Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, the tax laws at the IRS.gov from publication 17 to publication 525, I realized that we as tax preparers, if we're not creating LLCs or corporations, we're causing bondage to the government, slavery of paying high taxes when we could easily avoid a less taxable amount using the LLCs and the corporations.
You're listening to The Senpai Show. We'll be right back.
¿Estás buscando soluciones efectivas para crecer y prosperar en tu empresa? Entonces, LMS Solution es para ti. Con nuestra plataforma innovadora puedes crear, administrar y seguir el progreso de tus programas de capacitación en línea de manera eficiente y fácil, desde el reclutamiento hasta el desarrollo del personal. Ofrecemos una solución integral para tus necesidades de formación. Visita nuestra página web hoy mismo en lmsolutionsdx.com y comienza a optimizar el aprendizaje en tu empresa. Nuestra plataforma es como si tuvieras todo un equipo de personal, tecnología a tu alcance. Visítanos hoy.
¿Te gustaría vender seguros de propiedad? Ahora, con LMS Solution puedes obtener tu licencia de seguros desde la comodidad de tu hogar. Con LMS Solution, nuestros cursos en línea te preparan para obtener tu licencia de seguros de manera rápida y eficiente, con acceso a las 24 horas del día. Los 7 días de la semana puedes estudiar a tu propio ritmo. Regístrate ahora en nuestro sitio web nmsuccesyou.com. Toma el control de tu futuro profesional. Visita nmsolutionsdx.com/seguros. No esperes más para comenzar tu carrera en el apasionante mundo de los seguros.
We now return you to The Senpai Show.
Now, you do this for clients. You set up corporations. Tell us the simplest kind of corporation that someone listening to us can have.
Usually it's the LLC, which is a partnership. But for most people, they start off as a single member, because if it's your wife that's your partner, the IRS calls it a discard entity. A discard entity means you won't fill out the corporation paperwork as far as taxes, but you'll go back to Schedule C. So you really need to have somebody who understands the LLCs and the corporations to set you up, because you got to know your exit strategy. Do you want to sell stock? Do you want to transfer the company to your children? What is the exit strategy that you want to put? And those are the questions that you need to be asked by somebody who's preparing an LLC or a corporation. But the most popular is the LLC, and most of those are flow through, where you don't get taxed at the corporate level, but get taxed on your personal side on the earned income bracket.
The bottom line is you get to keep more of your money if you have an LLC compared to a DBA.
Oh, definitely. You avoid the self-employment tax from the corporation. On the personal side, on the DBA, you got a 15.3 self-employment tax, where the flow-through, because it's passive, has no self-employment tax.
Back to the book. In the book, you face numerous challenges throughout your story. What aspects of this journey do you think readers will resonate with the most, especially since your clients and our audience is La Raza?
The eye-opener for a lot of people is when I tell them, don't work hard to make a lot of money, because that's the myth that the Latinos have passed from generation to generation. Work hard, mijo. Get up at 3 a.m. Hombre, tienes que echarle ganas. You know, all these things that they said to work hard to make a lot of money, it's not really true in the American system. You need to understand the system and the game, because if you don't, you will be the highest paid taxpayer in America. And I'm not against taxes. I'm not. If you evade taxes, you're going to jail. But if you avoid taxes using the laws and the loopholes, you'll keep more money in your pocket to send your children to private schools, to college, or whatever it is that you want to use this extra money for. I tell people all the time, look, you have to understand the tax laws, because whether you like it or not, it's going to affect you personally and in the business realm. As you go further in life, you're going to realize, man, why didn't I know this sooner? Why didn't I do this before? And you'll be able to help your children to pass down the generational wealth.
Absolutely. So the setting of your book is very rich and vibrant. How did you go about researching a lot of the content that you wrote about? I noticed that you do reference a lot of books, but how did you put the book together? Tell us how that came about.
I thought about my grandmother's message about the Presidente, and the first step I took was write the names of the chapters. So I went through different sheets of paper, writing down different chapters before I even sat down and wrote the book. And as I wrote the chapters, then I got to writing the book and telling the story through that.
And without necessarily giving too much of the book, what is the key message that you want people to get from the book?
That we don't have to lose our culture to assimilate into America. We can be who we are with our ethnic culture, strong in the Latinos, our Hispanic culture, that I didn't lose any of that with my mom and my grandmother. I remember the tortillas de maíz, the nopales, the frijoles negros, and I'm proud to be Hispanic, Latino, whichever one you decide to be. At the end, I use Latino so that way I don't upset a lot of people. But I tell a lot of people in the book, I just wanted to tell people who I am, what I stood for, and where I had come from, so that you can do anything here in America. I got something really great that from the book, somebody who told me something. That was my daughter, Carmen. She referenced that she didn't know who she was or really her culture until I wrote the book. She said she wrote the book and then understood who she was. And for me, just her reading the book, that was priceless, more than enough, whether I sold any books or not, just to know that my daughter wrote it, that my grandchildren are going to be able to read it, and that way I can leave some type of legacy for them.
Let's go to the dark part of the book. The analogy to Nazi Hitler era. Why is that similar to the era that we're living in?
I told a lot of Raza, you're going to be deported. There's no amnesty. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, it does not matter. We had Obama, who was Democrat, deport more people than any other sitting president, and he was Democrat. So when I hear the Democrats or I hear the Republicans that they want to help the individuals, well, nobody's fixed an amnesty since 86, 87. So there's a lot of hardworking people that are here that I've helped over the 40 years that I've been in business. I looked at this and I looked at Hitler, and Hitler and Germany were broke. So is America today. We owe $33 trillion, and China's not buying our deficit. So the easiest thing to do is exactly what Hitler did. They went after the people with money. And so a lot of these people are hardworking with mattress money, have bought in assets. And so if their status is illegal, the easiest thing to do is to take their assets and their money from them, exactly what Hitler did with the Jews to finance the war. And that's where all their money came from. That's why they became a superpower, because you had the Rothschilds and all these different individuals that were there in Germany, and they took all their assets away from them.
And how does that apply to people who are in America, la raza que está here in the States, from other countries that they are not here legally to be able to sustain a lot of the discrimination that is coming down the pipeline, and the threat of losing their house, losing their business, losing whatever bank assets that they may have in the bank?
I would definitely create the LLCs and the corporations and put your assets in. And by no means do I say this is the best protection that you got. I think this is the best idea that I do have, is at least put your assets in those LLCs and corporations so that at least a legal entity in America owns it. But again, now you got to talk to somebody that knows the laws and understands everything or every aspect to an LLC and a corporation. I've learned a lot along the way. Of course, I incorporated a lot of my companies and protected my assets from lawsuits and just different things that it came into play. But I tell all my raza, do the LLC, do the corporation, set up the trust fund, set it up for your kids that do have Social Security numbers, and get you a trustee or somebody that you can trust that will be the benefactor over this trust for your children, your grandchildren. Because if you do get deported, let's say it does happen, you get deported, at least your assets are protected. And use the strip equity. That means, because I know a lot of raza pay cash, they got all their assets paid for. You need to create liens on your properties, on your cars, on whatever it is that you got paid for. Put it into the trust and have those liens posted. Because even if they come to try to take those assets away, there's a lien that has to be paid, and hopefully that money gets sent back to you from whatever country you came from, and maybe you can come back as an investor. The EB-5 says you need $1 million. Most of you guys got plenty of assets, and the way the real estate has gone up, you got 3 or 4 properties, sell them, get the money, put the money in the bank, or refi and hold that money so that when you do go home, you can come back as an investor.
And you have done this for hundreds, if not thousands of businesses.
It's probably a couple of thousand now, yes.
And we're going to be interviewing some of these clients in future episodes to talk about your integrity, your honesty, that you have dealt with and treated these clients in ways that they didn't know that they could be taken advantage of with other companies, because there is so much dishonesty in this particular area that you are a straight shooter, very honest, very down to earth, and you have thousands of testimonials that will vouch for your reputation and your integrity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell us any final comments about El Presidente. Oh, I want to touch about your bet with Mattress Mac. You had a bet. Give us the inside story behind it.
Well, we went to Gallery Furniture, and we noticed that there was a bet about who was going to win presidency. And I told my wife, it's easy. It's going to be Donald Trump. And she goes, you sure the Republican Party's going to win? I said, without a doubt, I knew the man was going to win. And so he's a businessman. And so I've studied Donald Trump's books, his tactics, and how he does business and his gambits and just a lot of things that I learned along the way that I'd use myself. I even had an attorney one time tell me, you're coming in with this Donald Trump BS. That is not going to work. But anyway, at Gallery, we were buying this mattress bed set for my mother-in-law. And I told my wife, bet, do the Republican Party. And sure enough, Donald Trump won. And beds were free. Definitely got credited.
That's funny.
Yes.
You have an upcoming book, and we're going to talk about that in our next episode. Tell us the title of the book.
The title of the book are the letters I, C, R, and then the word hope. I see our hope, which is our mission statement here at LMS and all the various groups that I've created.
Well, there you have it, friends. You need to listen to our next episode to get all the details on the soon-to-be-released book, I See Our Hope. Until next time, go out and have a great week.